playing Aquaman made Jason Momoa a billionaire.
But in 2023, they found out something that shocked them.
He no longer lived at his mansion. He was sleeping in a van that was parked outside. And it wasn't the weirdest thing. Court papers showed accusations from movie sets and stories from crew members that were never meant to be made public. When notes from therapists emerged during a trial, everything changed. The man who America thought was a hero had secrets that were worse than anyone could have guessed. Today, we're finding out what truly went on behind closed doors. Jason Momoa was born in August 1979, but everything around him was already broken before he could even talk. When he was only 6 months old, his parents broke up. Joseph, his father, was a Hawaiian painter who grew up in a metal shack in Waianae with very little. His mother, Connie, was from a little white village in Iowa and was a photographer. They lived in quite different worlds. Joseph couldn't get used to life in Iowa, and Connie couldn't get used to life in Hawaii. When they got divorced, Jason went to live with his mother in Iowa, which was thousands of miles away from the beach his father adored. That break never got better. Joseph would come over, although not very often. Jason always wondered why his dad seemed so far away, even while he was around. It wasn't easy to grow up in Norwalk, Iowa. Jason's appearance had changed. He had darker complexion and more Hawaiian characteristics, and the kids wouldn't let him forget it. There were only about 100 kids in his class, and he was one of the few who wasn't white. People made fun of him for everything, including his sandals, his face, and even his interests. He liked to skate and climb rocks, but those hobbies didn't fit with where he lived. Kids put him in lockers. Some people dubbed him a freak. When he tried to connect with his Hawaiian side during summer trips, they too turned him down and called him haole, which means outsider. He didn't feel like he belonged anywhere. He was stranded between two worlds and didn't really belong to either one. He finished high school in 1997, when he was only 16 years old. But things still didn't feel right. He played football with a youngster from town named Brandon Ruth throughout those years. At the time, no one knew. But one day, both of them would be superheroes. Jason played Aquaman and Brandon played Superman. But their high school squad never even made it to the state tournament back then. It's strange that two youngsters from the same little town, who were once ignored on the pitch, would later become recognized all over the world. Jason wanted to be a marine biologist after he graduated. He had always liked the ocean and even took biology studies in college when he was still in high school. He went to college in Iowa, but then he moved to the University of Hawaii. But things changed in 1998. A clothes designer saw him when he was 19 and working part-time in a surf shop. That meeting put an end to his hopes of becoming a scientist. In just 1 year, Jason received Hawaii's Model of the Year 1999 award and even walked for Louis Vuitton. But afterward, he said something that shocked everyone. Everything was fake. He lied at the audition to garner attention by saying he had modeled for big companies. It worked, even though it wasn't true. That year, he heard an ad on the radio for an audition for Baywatch, Hawaii. There were more than 1,300 individuals there. Jason waited 7 hours for a chance. He didn't have any acting experience or a resume. That plus a lot of nerves made up the modeling story. But there was something about him that stuck out. They chose him. He went from folding shirts at a surf shop to being a lifeguard on TV in the blink of an eye. He stayed on the show from 1999 until 2001, working on his legendary body and trying to learn how to act on set, even though he was nervous and continually forgetting lines. Things went bad when Baywatch stopped, though. He moved to Los Angeles with very little money. Nobody would sign him. He couldn't get a real job for 3 or 4 years. He worked as a waiter in Colorado, slept on friends' couches, and saw his expenses pile up. That Baywatch title, which had helped him in the past, now hurt him. People didn't believe him. In 2003, he tried to get things going again by starring in Baywatch and Hawaiian Wedding. It failed, miserably. People who didn't like it loathed it. He was heartbroken. That setback made him want to stop acting and go back to school to study animal biology. Jason hit rock bottom from 2001 to 2004. He was in debt, almost destitute, and couldn't even pay for his house in Topanga Canyon. He worked any job he could find to stay alive. He was able to keep going since he had a little part in a show called North Shore in 2004. It was the first time in years that he thought he had a chance. But that was still risky. His leash broke while he was surfing at Piahi in 2007, a place famed for its huge waves. He was stuck almost a mile from the beach. He couldn't move his arms anymore. He was sure he would drown. He somehow got back. But that moment stuck with him. North Shore was meant to be his big break. But it didn't last long. It cost almost $2 million for each episode. The production cost the network more than $40 million, and the false hotel set alone cost $1 million. But the ratings weren't good. There were just 21 episodes of the show when it was cancelled in 2005. It ended on a cliffhanger that was never explained. Jason was in a comedy called Johnson Family Vacation that same year. It was his first movie part, but it didn't assist him much. He was still getting roles as the huge Hawaiian guy, but never as a professional actor. Jason became tired of playing the same kinds of parts over and over, so he started to change. He started taking lessons in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His workouts were quite hard. He did something called the AR7 program. 7 sets, 7 reps, and 7 seconds of rest. He worked out almost every day, and occasionally 3 times a day. On Mondays, I worked on my chest, on Tuesdays, my back, on Wednesdays, my legs, on Thursdays, my core, and on Fridays, my arms and shoulders. He only had weekends off. He worked out so hard that he damaged himself a lot, yet he kept going. He wanted to be ready for something more important. That training helped later, but North Shore was a disaster for the network. Instead of showing reruns, Fox took a significant risk by airing the show in the summer of 2004. They thought the Hawaiian setting would attract people. It didn't work. They even changed the name of the show several times before settling on North Shore. Even though it had a Hawaiian cast and staff and cost a lot of money, it couldn't keep an audience. Other networks also stopped making major shows in Hawaii after it failed. Jason Momoa was only 25 years old in early 2005 and had only played a few notable roles. He had been in 44 episodes of Baywatch Hawaii and 21 episodes of North Shore. But not a lot of people knew who he was. That changed when he joined Stargate Atlantis in Season 2, filling in as Ronan Dex. He was 6 feet 5 inches, physically striking, but the shocking part was that he had no martial arts background. Still, he told the crew he didn't want stunt doubles. He wanted to learn everything himself. So for months, he trained with stunt coordinator James Bamford, learning sword fighting and close combat. He bruised his ribs so badly during sword practice he could barely breathe. But he kept it secret because he was afraid of losing the role. By the end of that season, even the crew couldn't believe this was the same guy who once modeled for magazines. He didn't just look like a warrior. He fought like one. Then came the Setita episode in 2006. It was one of the most brutal episodes of the entire show. His character, Ronan, was tortured by the Wraith and forced to become a runner again. Momoa didn't just act the pain. He wanted to feel it. He refused to use padding. He skipped breaks. He shot for 14 hours straight. At the end of the day, he collapsed from exhaustion. The crew thought he was acting, but then he passed out for real. Paramedics were called, and the set shut down for 2 days. People started whispering that Jason wasn't just intense, he was dangerous in how far he'd go for a scene. His co-star, Joe Flanagan, later said Jason was brilliantly unhinged. But behind that intensity, there were constant fights. In interviews between 2007 and 2008, Jason said he made up about 40% of Ronan's sounds. Grunts, growls, warrior-like breaths. All inspired by his Hawaiian grandfather. The writers didn't like it. One of the producers, Robert C. Cooper, wanted Ronan to speak more. Jason argued back. Ronan had been alone for 7 years. He wasn't supposed to talk much. He was a man of silence and action. When writers pushed for wordy scripts, Jason refused. He said they were trying to turn his character into a chatty tour guide. The tension got so bad, Jason threatened to quit the show unless they stopped watering down Ronan's backstory. In the end, they gave him more freedom. Off-set, things weren't smooth either. In 2007, Jason started dating someone who worked with a guest director. But his wild lifestyle, partying, gaming all night, showing up tired to set, started affecting his performance. During early episodes of Season 4, he was so off that it took multiple takes to finish scenes. David Hewlett, another actor on the show, called him out. They even had a public fight. Jason later joked that he liked everyone on set except David Hewlett. Their relationship didn't last, and the crew had to change shooting times just to work around his hangovers. Production costs went up by nearly $50,000 in overtime because of him. Things only calmed down when Jason met Lisa Bonet later that year. She gave him a serious warning: change or lose everything. But even after Stargate Atlantis ended in 2008, things didn't get easier. Jason had earned about $30,000 per episode, but by 2009, he was broke. He'd spent too much, managed his money poorly, and had no backup plan. He had to borrow $15,000 from his mom just to pay for headshots and go to auditions. At 29, he moved back into his childhood bedroom in Iowa and slept on a twin bed. He considered going back to modeling. He even thought about doing soap operas, something he swore he'd never do. For weeks, he lived on ramen noodles. He couldn't even afford gas to drive to auditions. His mom had to co-sign his apartment lease in Los Angeles because his credit was ruined. In 2009, everything changed because of one bold move. Jason went to his Game of Thrones audition not knowing much about the books. The script barely had any lines for Khal Drogo, so he asked if he could try something different. Then, without warning, he performed a traditional Maori haka. It was loud, fierce, and terrifying. The casting directors froze. They didn't know what to say. Then they asked him to come back and do it again for the camera. That moment landed him the role that would change his life. But again, he went too far. In 2011, during Game of Thrones filming, he acted out a rage scene that wasn't even in the script and ended up breaking a stuntman's arm. Production stopped for 2 days. That wasn't the first time he got hurt or hurt someone else. In 2018, on the set of Braven, a fight scene left him unconscious. He had to be hospitalized with head trauma. He never liked using CGI or body doubles. He wanted everything real. And that meant getting hurt. That same year, during Comic-Con in 2011, he made a joke that would follow him for years. On a panel, he said he liked working on Game of Thrones because he got to rape beautiful women. The crowd laughed, but his castmates were visibly uncomfortable. Years later, in 2017, that clip resurfaced during the Weinstein scandal. Jason was in Australia when it blew up. He woke up to thousands of angry messages. He posted a public apology right away, saying he was ashamed. He said those jokes hurt people close to him too. The backlash was so strong that he started therapy to better understand what his role represented and how to separate performance from real pain. That same year, filming Drogo's death scene nearly broke him. The scene took 12 hours to shoot. The makeup was so realistic that Emilia Clarke actually threw up. One crew member fainted. The heat, the prosthetics, the emotional pressure, it all weighed on Jason. When filming ended, he cried for hours. He wasn't just letting go of a character. He was letting go of a version of himself that had been through hell. After Game of Thrones, fame hit hard, but not in the way he expected. People started showing up at his house. Some thought he was really Drogo. He had nightmares, violent ones, where he couldn't tell if he was still that warlord. He called them PTSD dreams. And yet, at the same time, he was still broke. He couldn't afford to fly home to Hawaii, so he and a friend rented a U-Haul van and drove around Ireland looking for the best Guinness. People thought he was living the dream, but he was broke, tired, and mentally drained. Then in 2011, he took another huge risk. He bulked up to 240 pounds to play Conan the Barbarian. It took 6 weeks of brutal training. But the movie flopped. It made just $63.3 million against a $90 million budget. Critics gave it 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Jason called it a big pile of shit. During those 5 months of filming, he was bleeding almost every day. His hands, arms, legs always cut up. He refused to use doubles. He wanted it to feel real, but all it gave him was disappointment and more debt. In 2014, fed up with Hollywood, Jason made his own film. He directed Road to Paloma and paid for it himself, $600,000. He borrowed the first $100,000 on a risky loan. He used his personal motorcycle. He asked his friends to help. He even got music from the Rolling Stones. The film barely broke even, making just $937,000. But it was deeply personal. It was about grief, identity, and freedom. And it helped him process a lot of the pain he'd carried for years. Later that year, he starred in The Red Road, playing a Native American character. But the show sparked protests. Real tribes said it misrepresented them. Even though Jason was part Native Hawaiian and Pawnee, activists said the show didn't consult real Ramapool members. He defended himself, but the backlash grew. The show was cancelled after 2 seasons. By 2013, he was so broke again that he lived in a van. Not because it was cool, but because he had no choice. He told a magazine, "We're starving after Game of Thrones. I had babies and no money." While Lisa Bonet and their kids stayed in LA, Jason lived on the road. He said it helped him escape the pressure. But really, it was survival. Then in 2014, he got an unexpected audition. It was for Batman in Batman v Superman. He didn't think he had a shot. He played the scene like Batman had died and someone else picked up the suit. It was gritty, raw, and strange. Zack Snyder liked it. But instead of Batman, he offered Jason something else, Aquaman. Jason was shocked. A brown Aquaman, long hair, tattoos, orange shirt. But Snyder had a vision, and Jason said yes. Filming Justice League in 2017 was chaos. Zack Snyder stepped away after a family tragedy. Joss Whedon came in and rewrote most of the film. They only kept about 10% of the original footage. Jason said the reshoots felt totally different. The movie underperformed, making $657 million on a $300 million budget. But fans weren't done. In 2021, HBO Max released Zack Snyder's original 4-hour version. Jason didn't film anything new for it. All his scenes were already shot. He was stunned people didn't realize those parts had always existed. That cut became the 4th most streamed movie on HBO Max. Then came Aquaman in 2018. It shocked everyone by making $152 billion worldwide. But behind the scenes, Jason and Amber Heard reportedly didn't get along. During Heard's 2023 trial, she claimed Jason came to set drunk and dressed like Johnny Depp. Warner Brothers denied it. They said Jason was professional. But the tension was real. By 2023, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was a mess. The film had delays, reshoots, and cost $15 million. Cameos were added, then removed. 6 companies worked on its visual effects, but it only made $440 million, less than half the original. For Jason, it was another reminder that success never comes easy. Jason Momoa had no idea what was coming when he took the role of Duncan Idaho in Dune. It was 2021 and the teen was shooting in the Wadi Rum Desert in Jordan, a place so dry and vast they called it the Valley of the Moon. The heat reached 120 degrees. It got so bad that the crew could only shoot for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night. Momoa had to run full speed through sandstorms while wearing layers of clothes. He later said it was one of the hardest things he had ever done. Just to survive the day, they had air-conditioned tents on set through July and August. Director Denis Villeneuve didn't want fake backdrops. He wanted the cast to feel the endless desert. And Momoa did. He would sneak away on his lunch break and record personal videos of the sand, the sky, and the wind just to remember it all. 2 years later, in 2023, Momoa stunned everyone again. During Fast X, he was playing Dante, the villain. And during a high-speed chase scene in Rome, he decided to do the motorcycle stunts himself. No helmet, no green screen, just Momoa flying through Rome's old streets on wet cobblestones that were so slippery they felt like ice. Producers were watching the footage and praising the stunt double. Then someone told them it wasn't a double. It was Jason. He didn't tell anyone. He just did it. Later, he admitted it was risky. If he got hurt, the whole movie would stop, and it would cost millions. But he wanted the character to feel real. That's what made Dante stand out. But it wasn't all action and hero moments. Back in 2016, a very different side of Momoa appeared at the Venice Film Festival. He walked the red carpet for a film called The Bad Batch, playing a terrifying character named Miami Man. It was a low-budget dystopian thriller, filmed in the deserts of California with just $6 million. He acted alongside Keanu Reeves and Jim Carrey. The film was full of silence, dust, and danger. Momoa played a cannibal. His character hunted people. It was shocking to see Aquaman like that. But critics said it proved something. He wasn't just a muscle-bound superhero. He could play dark. He could go strange. And that would help shape his next moves. One of those moves was a quiet film called Braven. It came out in 2018. The work started back in December 2015. It was winter in Newfoundland, Canada, and it was brutal. Momoa co-produced the film. He wasn't just acting. He was helping build it. Snow and cold made every scene tough. The wind cut into the skin. But Momoa pushed through, playing a simple man trying to save his family from drug smugglers in the mountains. The movie didn't have the budget of a Marvel film, but it got good reviews. A 77% rating on Rotten Tomatoes proved he could carry a movie without special effects. Then came something completely different. In 2019, he lent his voice to the Lego Movie 2. It was Aquaman again, but this time he was a blocky cartoon, joking around and riding Batman like a surfboard. He even yelled his famous line, "My man from Justice League." People laughed, and that was the point. He didn't take himself too seriously. He was ready to make fun of his own image. And he was good at it, but then came trouble. In September 2024, a storm broke out online. Valkyrie, a famous YouTuber and Twitch star, had filmed a cameo for the Minecraft movie in New Zealand. She said Momoa screamed at crew members late one night. She said it was hard to watch. Drama Alert posted it on September 14, and it exploded. Suddenly, Jot to Me Too was trending again. People were angry. And then came a twist. When the movie came out in 2025, Valkyrie's cameo was gone. Not shortened, gone. Some insiders whispered that her role was cut as punishment. At the same time, Momoa was pouring himself into something he had been dreaming of for years. Chief of War, a series for Apple TV Plus with a massive $340 million budget. It was about Hawaii's unification in the 1700s. It was Momoa's culture, his ancestors. He played Keana, a warrior. He wasn't just the star. He was also the co-creator and later directed the final episode. But problems hit. In 2024, there were budget fights. Some argued about hiring cultural advisors. Filming was paused. They had to leave Hawaii and finish in New Zealand. Many native Hawaiians were upset. This was their story. Why wasn't it filmed at home? Later, it came out that the full cost, including post-production, might have reached $575 million. If true, it could be the most expensive show ever made. Momoa still kept going. At the end of 2024, on December 30th, he posted 2 words on Instagram. They called. It was the official start of something he had dreamed of for years, playing Lobo in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, a wild, brutal anti-hero from the DC world. He had always loved comics, and Lobo was his favorite. He had even said, "Hello, it's the perfect role." But this role wouldn't be clean. Lobo is violent. The early script drafts were so intense that Warner Brothers started worrying about the PG-13 rating. Still, the film was set for June 26, 2026. Momoa was finally stepping into the kind of character he had loved since childhood. Meanwhile, another project was causing whispers. Animal Friends. It was a road trip movie with Ryan Reynolds and Aubrey Plaza. Part animation, part live action. They finished filming in Bulgaria in 2024. But the script leaked in early 2025. People were stunned. The humor was raw, maybe too raw. The jokes were dirty. Studio heads panicked. It was supposed to come out in October 2025. Then it was delayed. First to August, then again to May 1, 2026. No one said why, but people guessed it had to do with protecting Momoa's family-friendly image. And just when fans thought they'd seen it all, a strange scam appeared. In November 2024, fake ads started appearing promising people they could invest in Hawaiian real estate with Jason Momoa. He had nothing to do with it. He immediately spoke out saying the ads were lies. But then he did something unexpected. He revealed that in 2024, he had donated $12 million to protect native Hawaiian lands. He also reminded people that in 2023, he became a UN advocate for life below water. His company, Mananalu, had been giving money to clean oceans, and he wasn't just giving cash. He was showing up at protests, fighting to stop construction on sacred Hawaiian lands. Then came the stories about his personal life. He had met Lisa Bonet in 2005. By July 2007, their daughter Lola was born. In December 2008, their son, Nakoa Wolf, arrived. They married quietly on October 7, 2017. But exactly 3 years later, on October 7, 2020, they separated. They kept it hidden for over a year. Lisa finally filed for divorce on January 8, 2024. No money was requested, no court battle. It ended in a single day. The papers revealed they'd been living apart since 2020. Momoa asked for joint custody. By then, Lola was 16 and Nakoa Wolf was 15. And then came Isa Gonzalez. Just a month after his split with Lisa went public, he was seen with Isa in February 2022. By May, they were official, but it didn't last. In June, they broke up. Isa struggled with his lifestyle. He was always on the move. She wanted structure. They tried again in July, but never fully got back together. By 2023, she had moved on with NBA star Ben Simmons. Then another storm hit. People found out Jason Momoa was living in a van, a luxury van worth $750,000, but still a van. Despite his $40 million net worth, he said he was houseless. Fans were divided. Some admired him. Others called it performative. The van had a shower, kitchen, everything. He parked it near his old house. He said it was about being close to nature. Some called it hypocrisy. Others said it was his way of returning to his roots. Years ago, before fame, he lived in a small van in Ireland while filming. But darker news was waiting. In 2023, therapist notes surfaced during the Aquaman 2 controversy. Dr. Don Hughes had written that Jason showed up drunk, acted like Johnny Depp, and even wanted Amber Heard fired. The dates matched the 2021 filming schedule. The accusations were serious. Around the same time, Valkyrie's story about him yelling at the Minecraft crew came back into focus. Warner Brothers denied everything. They said Jason was always professional, but people remembered something else, too. Back in 2011, he had joked during a panel that his role in Game of Thrones involved getting to rape beautiful women. He had apologized. But now, those words were back in the headlines.